I I was excited about your toe information, and it made me think of a toe that I have that really, really would love to have some of your healing wisdom poured onto it.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, about a year ago, a little over a year ago, when we were moving, I inadvertently, obviously, kicked into a vertical, very rigid object with my
Yeah.
toe, with the toe next to the big toe. I guess that's the second.
Okay. Yeah.
And I got it x-rayed and they said it wasn't broken, it was only sprained.
Okay.
Because there was a little tiny ding of some sort and it bled, it actually caused the nail to have a blood blister under the nail.
Mm-hmm.
And it got infected. And then when all of that cleared up, that middle joint appears to be fused now. I cannot bend that toe, and it's created kind of a hammer toe, which now is starting to impede walking. I want to be able to walk a lot, and we've been doing, 2 or 3, sometimes 4 miles, but that is starting to get to create some problems. And
the toe that's locking up, that's the second toe or the third toe, the middle toe?
second, it's next to the big toe. And
Yeah.
it's also caused the toe to deform to the right. So it wants to almost stand on top of that third toe.
Okay.
And it's just as solid as can be. It's interesting when I took the trauma class,
Yeah.
I didn't swing big. I went small and picked the trauma in my toe. And after that class, it looked like it had relaxed just a tiny bit. And I thought I was able to move it a tiny bit, but there's no hint of relaxation or movement in it at this time.
Okay. Give me just a second here. I think we're going to do a trigger point night tonight.
Well, that's what kind of got me excited when you talked about that earlier.
So I'm sending it to her right now. So give me just a sec. So you might have a couple of things. The thing that's a little bit of a curveball here is that the toe is drawing up, which again would go to the shin. Like you could treat the shin and just in case, but here you can see,
You'll see in just a
you'll
sec.
see in just a sec.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically there's these little muscles, like, I'm using my hand, but between the bones in the foot, like up here, like on the top part of your foot. And like you can do where you pinch like above and below, but you're wanting to wiggle your fingers in between the two bones. And it's just like you see, it's a little bit up, like, about like halfway in there. But if you just kind of keep pushing on that, again, not necessarily the toe itself, but you could drop a little marjoram in there or a little helichrysum, something that's a little antispasmodic. I actually like to use terebinth sometimes in these situations. There's also the trigger point blend, and kind of drop it in between the two toes and then just like rub it in really good. I would do it top and bottom.
Okay.
And it should help that. Sometimes with trigger points is there's a series of trigger points. It's not just one. It could be, you know, several things like a chain. I would say you probably have some issue up in the front part of your shin. You know, like the bone comes down, like more on the outside of that bone, that big bone in the low leg. I would just rub some marjoram or spikenard, you know, something just relaxing up on that area and treat that specific spot. And unless there's some anatomical anomaly within that joint, it should help. You know, unless it's like disarticulated, you know, or there's a bunch of deposits in it, which they would have said something when they x-rayed it. Usually they'll say, oh, it's got a bunch of arthritis on it. And they don't say what kind of arthritis. They'll just say, but it's just like sometimes an injury site will have a bunch of calcium like develop in the area. But kind of with what you're describing, I'm going to say that's probably more a trigger point, and it's probably this one and then something up on the shin.
Okay. Do you think I should have it like x-rayed again so that I can actually know what the deal is with the...
You could, but like if it's any of these kinds of things, like most times pain comes from soft tissue. So even if there's misalignment, I would treat soft tissue for a while and almost exhaust it before. I mean, you can always go and get x-rays, but most times they'll come back and they'll say everything looks fine. Like structurally, everything's solid. But the issue is the connective tissue, you know, that surrounding soft tissue. And so, you know, a perfect example is like people will have low back pain and they'll be bone on bone and they'll go get surgery and they'll correct the structural issue. You know, they'll fuse the two bones or whatever it is, and then they'll come out of surgery and they'll do physical therapy and they still have the same exact pain. The structure is fixed, but the pain is actually coming from the soft tissue. You know, the bones themselves and the cartilage, they don't really, they're not feeling pain, but they can cause pain. But usually it starts to be some sort of spasm or trigger point in the soft tissue. So even if there is a structural misalignment, this should bring you some relief. And then you can always have it x-rayed at some point, like when you're in seeing the doc or something like that. But most times x-rays don't really show anything worth like doing. You know, it's the soft tissue.
So I don't have lots of pain in it. I mean, like right now, it's not painful at all. And if I just walk, it's not painful. It's just that because it's deformed. And so. The deformity makes me think of up higher, but just because that toe, like sometimes there'll be pain. Sometimes it's just like it'll lock up a joint or not allow it to function properly. And so I would just make sure that this is correct, you know, unwound and corrected. You did have an injury to the spot. This would be the spot that would get a trigger point from that kind of injury. And so I would go through and treat it. Like they even make these like little T-bar tools that have like a point that comes like this to, you know, like what you would use into the foot. But it's like a rubber tip, and it's used to treat things like this, where you get in and you kind of put it in and you wiggle it side to side to spread the bone apart so you can get deeper into the muscle. If you're not having pain, I would just try to unwind the muscle, like as we're, you know, how we're talking about it, and then see if that opens up that foot. And but do treat the shin as well. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thanks.